Staying in Ottawa now, we bring in investigative correspondent Greg Weston, who has been working on this from the start. Greg, where are we now on this story?
Well, Peter, we've now identified three members of this perverse band of brothers who traveled overseas to commit terrorist acts. We know as well that there was at least one more, but we do not know his fate at this time.
Now, the other thing that we learned from Adrian's piece is that not only was CSIS involved in monitoring this group before they ever left for Africa, so was the RCMP. What does that tell us?
Well, it tells us that both agencies are taking this extremely seriously, Peter. Normally, these groups would be monitored by CSIS, which really has a surveillance function. It cannot intervene with these groups. Its job is to collect intelligence. If it suspects that something very serious may be about to happen, that might be a terrorist act, they call in the RCMP, which will then look at it as a possible criminal case. The fact that the RCMP are involved, therefore, tells us they are very worried about this group.
Now, the other fact we find out today is that that number 3 person is in a jail in North Africa. That would seem to mean that Foreign Affairs has to be involved now in terms of a Canadian in an overseas jail. What about that?
Absolutely. This has now become a political issue. The government has tried to at first pretend this wasn't happening with Canadians over there. Now it has maintained just a steadfast silence on it. It can't do that any longer. It now has a Canadian who is alive, who is in a jail over there, and who was involved with a terrorist group. So they have to do something one way or another.
All right, we'll leave it at that for tonight. Thank you, Greg. Greg Weston in Ottawa.